What's up? It's MikeSpike, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I'm not feeling all too good right now. I just came back from the doctor, and they said I have a rare condition called SNES-itis, and apparently the only cure for that is to play NES and SNES games. How am I supposed to play this? So, you're sick, and the only cure is playing NES and SNES games. It's quite the common occurrence, let me tell ya. Sounds easy enough, but it's getting harder and harder to find original hardware that actually works. So we have to turn to more digital solutions, which in the past meant Nintendo's Virtual Console that started way back on the Wii Shop channel. I didn't know it was possible for a store's background music to be better than everything that's in the actual store itself. But here we are. So where does that leave us today? With these two things. This is Nintendo Entertainment System Online and Super Nintendo Entertainment System Online. Two extremely creative names that straight up describe what each one does. One plays above average to what? NES games, and one plays actually solid SNES games. And both let you play with friends over crappy online. So, you're telling me $20 a year for 30-year-old games? That's a steal. Take my money. Take it all, Nintendo. Just take. People joke about this a lot, but I'm gonna be real with you. Buying a 30-year-old game for $5 isn't that much better of a deal back on the Virtual Console. So what are you getting for your cold, hard-earned 20 bones a year? Well, let's talk about the libraries of both NES Online and SNES Online, and determine if it's worth it buying Nintendo Switch Online for... I'm just kidding, I only have Nintendo Switch Online for Tetris 99. Before we talk about the games, let's talk about the app, I guess you could say, you access all these older games from. First off, it's very easy to switch between games, with it being basically instantaneous going from game to game. I know all of these games are basically fossils, but the speed is still quite nice. One thing that isn't so nice is the default layout of all of the games. Why are some games giant and why are some tiny? And why is it just completely random? I would complain more about how atrocious it looks, but it's simple to sort games by stuff like last played and total playtime, and then the menu finally starts to look normal. The settings aren't too in-depth either, with an alright looking CRT filter option if you want. The emulation looks super good already, especially compared to something like the Wii U Virtual Console, so I just prefer the default 4x3 mode. Quickly to mention the Pixel Perfect mode, it makes the image just slightly sharper, so you basically get CRT or no CRT. From here, you can also start up online play. What, did you think I could find friends, let alone friends that'll play NES Online with me? Get out of here! Actually, you can stay if you want to be friends with me. Please? There are some other specific things that NES and SNES Online offer, but not too much. Each game lets you set suspend points, rest in peace restore points, that are just save states, and 4 is a solid number, I'd say. The last big feature to talk about is the hotly debated a couple months ago rewind feature. And whether you hate it or whether you cheat, I think it's at least good that it's an option for scrubs like me who can't beat 1-1. So the way you access these games is pretty simple and definitely gets the job done. So how about them games, huh? Let's talk about the NES Online library first. And let me tell you, I've seen worse NES Online libraries. All your classics are here, such as Mario, Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario Golfing, Mario Tennis Referee, Mario Boxing Referee, and I'm sure Mario is in here somewhere. If you can't tell, there's just a bit of Mario here. Jokes aside though, I actually find this collection quite solid. I would say a lot of games, specifically stuff like Mario 3, Excitebike, and Punch-Out, still hold up pretty solidly to this day. One of my particular favorites is actually Mario Tennis Referee. I'm just kidding, it's just tennis. Sometimes the hit detection is a little wonky, but I find it quite addictive considering how simple the game is. And it somehow still manages to be better than Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. That game just can't catch a break. Super Mario Bros. 1 and 3 both feel as great as they always have, and are definitely worth going back to whenever you want. They are just really that timeless. The Legend of Zelda still makes you question your sanity. I still suck at Excitebike. Choo Choo Land is still a game that exists. River City Ransom is a fun, albeit slower running beat 'em up. Ghosts and Goblins is still hard as hell. And Super Mario Bros. 2 is still Doki Doki Panic. So to sum it up, it's not half bad. I would say more often than not, the games here are actually pretty quality. Well, as quality as NES games in 2020 can be. But, unlike God, it isn't perfect. And to prove that, here's a little known game called The Immortal by EA? Well, at least they didn't ask me to buy a season pass. And that was the NES's online library. You know, there were some pretty solid titles in there, and then there was The Immortal. So considering how interesting that last game was, I hope the SNES's online library is super. Now here's the SNES Online Library. To me, this is where video games really got started, and with Nintendo and Sega at each other's throats, it produced a good amount of quality titles. So I expect the collection here to be much more hits than misses, because I'm sorry, but the poor NES could only produce so much. There are quite a smaller amount of games here, but to make up for it, they do indeed have some heavy-hitting titles with much more meaningful content than anything the NES could do. And it also has Super Tennis, so how could it possibly be worse? Answer, it really can't. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, considered one of the greatest games of all time. It was also the closest I ever got to beating a Zelda game. I swear I'll beat it one day. I'm a much bigger fan of linear games, and Link to the Past is still just linear enough for me to enjoy it, while still retaining some of that standard Zelda open worldness. Yeah, this game alone is worth 5 NES games. Super Mario World, the sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3 that is vastly superior to it in every way, shape, and form. You Screw Attack. We actually touched on this game a little bit back in the GBA episode, but that was the Game Boy Advance version. So what about the SNES original? You can't play as real Luigi, he's just a palette swap. Other than that, it's just the same exact game. That's not a bad thing at all, as Super Mario World is easily one of the most solid 2D platformers ever made. See? You don't even have to touch the ground! You know, Super Mario World is pretty good. Great, even. But I'm unfortunately gonna have to give it a no real Luigi out of 5 stars. Because there is, in fact, no real Luigi. He's fake. He's just a figment. Full of our imaginations. He's not real, man. Next up is Donkey Kong Country and DKC 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, one of the most eloquently named games of all time, and I gotta say, it's shocking how well these games still hold up. The controls and level design were always great, but the graphics as well are also just kinda timeless, at least to me. You would think the digitized 3D models or whatever they are would start looking bad, but they don't, and they don't impede the game at all. Easily, one of the best parts about these two games though is the music, and it is really good, guys. So far we have some really good platformers on our hands, and that kind of continues with Super Mario All-Stars, a collection of old NES Mario games that have been remastered, with new SNES sounds and colors to them. Why Nintendo didn't just put the Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World on here and call it a day, when they just made them separate is beyond me, but it's whatever, it's not a big deal. People have said the physics are slightly off compared to the NES originals, so All-Stars is weird to play for them, but I gotta say, I actually prefer these physics more than the physics in the older games. I'm not even entirely sure why, it just feels nicer to me. Other than that, not much to say here, just the NES Mario games looking a bit nicer all in one small digital package. Switch. Super Mario Kart, a game that has not held up very well. I'm sorry, but the controls just feel off. Drifting feels super bad, it's hard to see items most times, and this game reeks of a first generation type of deal. Do I think it's important to look at where things started and see how they improve over time? For sure. But other than that, there's no real reason to come back to this game. Other notable titles include Yoshi's Island, one of the best looking games on the SNES, Star Fox 2, which had been unreleased officially until the SNES Classic Edition in 2017, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which is still turbo hard, but now it looks better, Super Punch-Out, a pretty decent sequel to the NES game, and for the last time I promise, Super Tennis. Tennis was better. So that's it. I'm finally cured. I don't have to play a single NES or SNES game again.
A few moments later.
Guys, I just came back from the doctor and they changed my diagnosis to Atari Jaguaritis. What the heck am I supposed to do now?